Welcome to this week's edition of Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Chiang. Taiwan has been a member of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, the so-called APEC, since 1991. The APEC has been a very important force for regional economic integration and regional economic cooperation. So how has Taiwan been doing in this process of APEC cooperation? And these are the topics we are hoping to talk about today. We have two guests today. Our first guest is Professor David Hong. He is the president of Taiwan Institute of Economic Research, and he is also executive director of Chinese Taipei APEC Study Center. Professor Hong, welcome to our program.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. And our second guest is Professor Johnny Chiang, and he's the director of the International Affairs Department at the TIER. Professor Chiang, welcome to our program.
Hello, everyone.
So, Professor Hong, you joined the Taiwan delegation as a consultant to go to the APEC meeting this year. So what were the main issues of this year's APEC meeting?
The main theme of the APEC for this year is on climate change and clean energy and regional integration.
Yeah.
But actually, most people focus on the economic leaders meeting and just consider that as the only meeting, but actually it's not.
That's right.
Each year there are more than 100 meetings involve different level. Okay, so if you want to know a little bit detail, that we can elaborate.
But how different are this year's meetings themes different from the previous ones?
Well, I think basically economic issues are still the main concern of the APEC. However, because of climate change, the issue has been brought up by like G8 or the United Nations, the climate change panels of the United Nations in the earlier of this year. So the Australia strategically want to use the issues as the main point that for the host this year's, because Australia was the main founder back to 1989 of APEC. So Australia has been trying to use some climate change as the hotspot in terms of issues to kind of let everyone know that Australia is doing something in that area. And in particular, because Australia and United States, they are both not in the process of Kyoto
process,
protocol. So they also try to use the opportunity to let the whole world know that we are doing something in response to the climate change.
But did the member states this year agreed, in some point to solve the problem of climate change?
The consensus in terms of spirit, yes. Okay, and but in terms of detail, there's still quite a lot of detail to be worked out. But in the spirit, yes, it is.
But the thing is, I think at least there's increasing awareness about the seriousness of the issue, right? For Taiwan, what we have been doing in this particular issue.
Well, I think that we can look at the climate change issues from different perspectives. But for Taiwan's perspective, I think that both government and the companies, all those manufacturing firms, they know that's the trend there. So they are doing something to kind of reform their production process. But for the international cooperation, Taiwan is also trying to do something, especially in this year's APEC meetings. So almost half a year ago, Taiwan government has been trying very hard to prepare an initiative that can be, that can be adopted in the APEC process. So we initiate a project called the Green APEC Opportunity.
Green APEC Opportunities.
Yes, and let's try to cooperate with other economies to identify those opportunities can be found in terms of combating climate change. So they may include in like business opportunities and international cooperation opportunities. And also other like social education opportunities.
But was that initiative adopted or accepted by the APEC meeting?
Well, in spirit, in principle, because that not too often that the economic leaders meeting declaration would specifically say that which country's proposal is adopted by the meeting or something like that. But in the declaration, certainly it indicates about the principle, about our initiative.
But the problem you've been talking about, in spirit, everything is fine. But the thing is, some people criticize the APEC for being too loose in terms of having some sort of binding power in the member states. So people even joke about that. APEC is a perfect excuse to chat. It's not really an organization such as EU and so on.
Right.
Are you disappointed in the APEC performance in the past few years?
Not really, because it's a dialogue platform, and especially to Taiwan, APEC is the second, almost most important international organization we belongs to, beside the WTO.
Right.
So we need that kind of organization for us to expose ourselves to discuss issues with other peoples. And the nature of the APEC is just non-binding and open dialogue to talk about economics issues mainly. But these days is even expanded to other issues. So actually, in this kind of the trend of the democracy in the whole world, a platform to get people together in also this kind of APEC, 21 members, I think is a great occasion.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, just to add one thing to answer your question, I think I agree Dr. Hong's point that I'm still optimistic about the APEC's performance. Even though there's a lot of criticism about APEC's performance, they think it's just a talk shop. Yeah. But I think every cooperation starting from talking, from dialogue. Yeah. And then you can know where can we start to institutionalize the process. Yeah. And I think that's where the APEC is now. It's trying to institutionalize the process. So in the past 2 or 3 years, APEC has been doing its structural reform, its its organizational reform. Yeah. So this year's APEC passed they agree to do something in terms of institutionalization. That includes they will hire professional executive directors for international secretariat in Singapore. Yeah. And they also agreed to raise the annual contribution, that's annual fees for membership, to 30% from 2009. And they even talking about to have a professional staff. Yeah. So they agreed to set up a unit called Policy Support Unit. So in the future, in the next year, they are preparing to hire some professional staff and to kind of do the R&D job. Yeah. And maybe in the future, the APEC will become the Asia Pacific OECD.
So are you saying that you both may say that APEC in the end will become more institutionalized, more organized, more professionalized? Do you think that's the case? In
that kind of direction. But even before that, right now, over the 100 meetings held in APEC, the member will compare to each other in each issue. For example, climate change. We'll compare now how much you have done, how much we have done. Yeah. Those kind of peer pressure actually is a kind of momentum that for all the member concerned would try to do better. That's right. And that, I think that's is very meaningful.
So there are competition among member states in terms of holding activities, coming up with initiatives and so on. So how has Taiwan been doing in terms of organizing events and coming up with initiatives?
For example, this year we have been organized the APEC conference in Taiwan. I think there are already 15 APEC conference that have been held in Taiwan. And they include in the working group meetings or task force meetings or other issue-specific international conference associated with APEC in Taiwan. So in that regard, I think Taiwan has been doing something in the APEC process. And beside that, Taiwan also tried to compete for the leadership in different issue areas. For example, small, medium-sized areas. That's one of the best of Taiwan's, show Taiwan's strengths. And also in the IT or ICT areas. And then agricultural technology cooperation issue areas. Taiwan has been very good at those issue areas.
That's right.
And we have been served as like lead shapers or convener or co-chair or chairs in those working group or task force.
Yeah.
I think that's very good for Taiwan, especially when we have this kind of diplomatic difficulties for the time being. So I think that's a very good training ground for Taiwan's future participation in the international cooperation.
Dr. Hong, you also mentioned earlier that in this year's meeting, the so-called energy is also a very important issue.
Clean energy.
Clean energy. So how was that issue discussed in the meeting?
Well, the clean energy actually is related to climate change, right? Because what we worry a lot about climate change is global warming because of CO2 and emission, and the energy sector, the energy production, energy use is a major contribution or major part of this CO2 emission. Therefore, to talk about climate change, you cannot avoid to talk about the energy areas. Right. So the so-called the green energy, so-called clean energy, how to produce energy with less of the material, less the resources, and less how to use it with more efficiency, or to try to save energy such that you can cut down those kind of CO2 emission. So
again,
that's all related.
Was there any consensus coming out of this meeting?
Oh, of course, about the energy area that is certainly is a clear-cut consensus that energy saving, energy conservation, alternative development of alternative energy, really nobody would have anything against it.
What's the role of Taiwan in this, developing a clean energy for the region and for the world?
I think Taiwan, in terms of industry, our industry has been playing a very important role in terms of to developing those more energy saving products or energy saving manufacturing process. For example, Taiwan has been very good at making solar ball, and then we are also very good at making the LED.
That's right.
And those products are almost like 30 or 40% of the whole world product are made in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I think Taiwan has been making a lot of contribution to the energy saving or energy efficiency.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But in terms of the climate or environmental degradation, there's urgency for Taiwan and for the region, for the world, to develop some sort of alternative sources for energy. How has Taiwan been doing in terms of developing those alternative energy sources?
We have been trying all our most effort, try to develop those alternative energy. That's what Dr. Chiang just mentioned about the solar energy and about windmill energy and bio type of energy, and anything you can think about. Actually, not just Taiwan, almost every countries, or especially about the advanced country or developed country, every country is working very hard to do it.
Yeah. But I think it's also a good opportunity. It's a market over there.
Yeah.
Is Taiwan competitive enough to get into that market?
I mean, to some extent, or in several dimensions, Taiwan is very competitive in terms of making those energy-saving products. But I think there's still plenty of room for Taiwan to compete for in the futures, because the oil price will continue to grow. It would be soon to reach the $100 a barrel. So I think that's the direction is out there, and then we cannot just ignore. And Taiwan's industry for the time being, may need to think about the transformation. And I think Dr. Hong may have some point about this, as how to transform Taiwan's industry into a more green
We'll talk about that
industry.
Later. And as you know, that Taiwan has been very competitive in terms of this kind of service sector and trying to, especially IT sector and so on.
Yeah.
And that is also, related to the so-called clean environment and so on. So does Taiwan come up with any initiative this year in terms of developing a more clean energy in the APEC meeting?
Not in the APEC meeting.
Yeah.
Not in the meeting, but we continue. The other initiative that Taiwan has been proposed this year is the ADOC 2.0.
ADOC, yeah.
That's the APEC Digital Opportunity Centers. That's the second phase of the project. The first, in the first phase of the project, we have been aligned with other 7 economies, and then we provide IT training and IT centers, telecom centers in those countries. The total number now is 27 IT centers in those economies. Yeah. And the turnout has been very successful, and also that brings some business opportunities. So now the project turned into the second phase, and because this year's leaders representative is Mr. Shi Zhenrong, Stan Shi, and he is very eager to push the project further. Yeah. So he talked about this in the leaders meeting, and he said Taiwan is willing to contribute more in these projects. So now he's kind of asking other international, other big international IT company to join the project, and they will continue to provide an affordable device, IT device for those developing countries.
Yeah. You both point out that the APEC meeting, APEC itself is very important for Taiwan because it's one of the number 2 most important international economic organization where Taiwan is a member of. So when we come back, we will talk about Taiwan's participation in APEC and the interaction between the APEC and Taiwan. So don't go away, stay with us.